Good morning and welcome to the final webinar of the year. Today we're going to talk about our thoughts, Jump's thoughts, the team's thoughts on 2023 and the expectations for 2024. Now, for those that were listening last week, you'll have heard my esteemed colleagues give me a right slating with regards to stats and whether we should be on. So I thought I'll give you some stats that are worth listening to. So, these stats are all about Jump. Okay, so this year we have done 619 individual coaching, mentoring, and training sessions for our clients. We have delivered two, or more than one session, should I say, to over 109 clients. We have delivered 45 webinars, of which those 45 webinars, Heather has been asked the first question 37 times. Paul Jacobs has spoke on those webinars for over 75% of the time, but only breathed once, apparently, because he doesn't breathe, doesn't Paul? And me and Dave have just sat there casually and given the best piece
observing.
Absolutely. However, our webinars in total on YouTube, and this is a site that we don't promote, it's a true organic figure, is this. Our webinars have been watched for 794 hours. That's 33 days in total. Our webinars have been viewed by 5,941 times, and our top YouTube video has been watched for 218 hours. Our website in 2023, new users were 2,103, and they've undertaken 3,240 sessions. 46% of the visitors to our website were females. So we are definitely hitting that gender diversity point. The most viewed page on our website after our homepage was our webinar page, followed by our services page. And up until this week, we have had a total of 2,242 individual people sign up to our webinars this year. So to say we've been a little bit busy is an understatement. So team, I hope you're proud of those stats. I hope those stats please you and you can move forward. Paul's not with us today. So we've got Dave and Heather, and we're going to sort of be joined. And well, the people who are on that, I want you to join in and ask questions as well. I want you to put your thoughts across. It'll be interesting to hear what you've had to say about this year, etc. So I'll kick off with the first question. So I'm going to go to you today first, so Heather doesn't get the monopoly on the first question. 2023. There was a huge shift in the recruitment market from the previous years from there. How do you separate those that you've succeeded to those that have not in 2023?
I think it has certainly been an interesting 2023. I think for me, it was those that were able to react more quickly, more swiftly, to the fact that 2023 wasn't what they were assuming it was going to be as we ended 2022 and came into the new year. Most of the owners, the MDs of the companies that I spoke to, had a kind of tougher ending to the end of 2022 and were expecting a bumper or certainly a gradual start to 2023. And it didn't happen for a lot of companies. It was slower than they had anticipated. It was a little bit more bumpy. Things didn't quite pick up. Decisions were taking longer. So as I reflect back out, I look back and think, actually, the companies that have done better have been the ones that kind of picked up on that and put things into place to make sure that their business was protected through a challenging year. Some of them got rid of costs, some of them changed strategy to focus a bit more on contract than perm, or vice versa, or looked at other sectors, or spent a bit more money on marketing to promote their brands and get new customers. But those that worked out that actually it's not going to be quite what we thought it was were the ones that have done best.
Yeah, there's a lot, isn't there, about holding your nerve. And I think it's been such a challenging few years. I think perhaps there was an expectation that maybe things were going to calm down a little bit and things would be a little bit more settled, which of course wasn't the case at all. And so I think one of the differentiators actually has been those owners and leaders who have thought about the impact of that ongoing change on themselves and not run scared. So really focused on themselves and their ability to lead and the challenge for their organizations, and gone, okay, it's another year of change, but we can do this, we can handle this, and that have kind of stayed steady and done exactly the things you talk about, Dave. But it is that, it's another year of change, but we've got this, we can do it.
Yeah. I think it was an interesting year. I thought at the beginning of the year, it was those at the beginning of 2022 that I think didn't keep believing the hype. It was going to carry on growing and carrying on growing, and didn't believe the hype in that I no longer have to do just marketing to get inbound leads, and that's where I'm going to get all my business from. And I think those that sort of entered 2023 thinking, I've got to really address my new business, I've really got to address my retention of my own staff, they were the ones that really started to succeed in 2023 and separate themselves out. Those that just carried on doing the same and expecting to get different results, they got different results. They got a downturn in their results, okay, because they didn't do things differently. They were still, as I've been saying for quite some time now, they were still what I'd class as those eyes down recruitment, just looking at what's happening today, not eyes up recruitment, looking at what's coming further down the channel. And I think those that looked at the economic forecast halfway through 2022 saw that it was a bathtub recovery, where we dropped down, we went flat, and then we came up really quickly in a bathtub. And then we hit this, what they called a W recession, where it dropped, came up a little bit, dropped again, and we're now coming up again. And it was that little bit that we thought at the beginning of Q2 in 2023, oh, we're out of it, and it dropped again, and then it's come back. I think it was those people who looked at the economic data back in 2022 really survived 2023 precisely. On the slide there, it says, obviously, these are our views of 2023 and 24, but as usual, there's going to be a Christmas quiz. So I want you to join in the Christmas quiz, okay? We're going to give you some random facts about everybody. Even Paul, if he's not here, there'll be some random facts, okay? Your job is to guess who the random fact is about. So first random fact that comes up is this one, okay? So the question is, who ran the Reading the Reading half marathon, okay, successfully? Simple question. As you think about that question, who did that question, write the name of the person down. At the end, we'll go through and tell you who actually did those things, okay, from there. But that's a nice, easy starter, okay. Next question, though, I'm going to go to Heather, okay. What would be your best piece of advice you gave to your client base in 2023?
Actually, it was one of the smaller organizations I work with in the built environment, and they were really looking at growing and wanted to promote some people in the business to become their new management sphere. And honestly, it was to train everybody in the business first about what being a manager is all about before they even start thinking about it. And we spent a lot of time in that organization. It's quite, as I say, very small, but making sure everybody then knew what the job of a manager was before we started asking for volunteers and before we started thinking about who we were going to promote. We did loads of training and loads of awareness about what the job was, and it's made such a difference to that organization this year. They appointed the right people to be managers at the end of that exercise, and they've been able to grow off the back of it. They've been able to recruit and grow off the back of that. So it's just worked really, really well. And then prepping people for the decision they were going to make, so they knew what they were taking on, rather than promoting people for the wrong reasons.
That's great. It's really good.
So what will be yours then, Dave?
I think for me, a niche sort of boutique, smaller company that was fortunate enough to win some business in Europe, in continental Europe, which was going to mean they were going to grow their contract numbers significantly. And the person who led the business thought that the best option for him was to finance it himself. And I remember just sitting down and saying, don't do that, because you don't know how big this is going to go. And also the client that they were dealing with, I didn't know the client at all personally or any of the people, but I said, you only need to be stuck behind a late invoice. If your number of contractors grow significantly, you are really going to be in a difficult position. What he didn't want to do, of course, was pay 2, 3, 4, 5% to a factoring type organisation to protect his margin. But we were able to have a really good conversation, introduce him to a couple of good organisations who could help him, and fortunately he chose one that worked really well. And he started off with 3 or 4 contractors. He's now got 21. And more months than less, he's been paid late. So it's been a good decision to outsource that factoring to help him grow his business. And he's been able to change the pricing model as well, so that he's got some of that a few points back on the margin.
It's interesting. I think mine sort of covers not both those points, but certainly hits Heather's point and hits your point to a certain degree. One of my clients, about 15, 20 heads big, wanted to grow a new division, but also wanted to prove the concept that I'd been talking about for quite some time. So we opened a new division. We've recruited 7 people in at the beginning of the year. We changed their recruitment strategy. We changed their recruitment process to get the right people in, based it all on value, based it all on will. We changed their onboarding strategy. We changed their coaching strategy. And we changed their training strategy to, rather than being a 2-week at-desk training coach center, to being a 12-month every week, having a new thing to do and a new thing to push forward at. And the idea was to get people through that first year and have a certain run rate. We came to November, and the manager that rang up, he said, I'm a bit embarrassed. I don't know how I'm going to go back to the board to say that I've made a 140k loss this year. And I said, okay, and what have we done this year? He said, we've recruited 7 people. All 7 people are still here. Their average run rate now per head is 15k. So I said, so next year, if we keep it at 15k, then you're going to do 1.2 million pounds. So you tell me anybody who wants to invest 140 grand and next year they'll get 1.2 million pounds from it, they'll rip your arm off.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is what we did. And it was really interesting that he came back and said, after the board meeting, the board have turned around and said, why aren't we adopting this approach for every other division that we've got, and look at how we're onboarding the right people? It is all about value. It is all about will. And it's all about taking the right people through the journey. And if we can focus on getting those people to the end of year 1, then we'll make an inordinate amount of money from these people just by doing the right things. And I think that, to me, was the best piece of advice that I gave. And I've given parts of that advice to lots and lots of people. And it's about how that advice sims in. But it started off with the management training and getting all the managers all working in the same idea, all with the same viewpoint. And that really helped that, because he had so much support from the rest of the business to help him develop those teams. And as they've watched his success, they've all morphed into say, we should be doing more of that. Yeah. We should be doing more of that.
And then you get the belief, don't you? It becomes self-fulfilling, because it's hard to hold your nerve, right? Unless you've got a plan that's a long-term plan to know I'm investing in year 1 to deliver in year 2. Unless you've really got that plan and everybody's on board with it, it's really hard to hold your nerve. So I think that's a fantastic example, Howard.
It is. So here's another then little story about someone from within the Jump team. So who, while terminating a candidate, a temp or contract from a contract role for lying, had one of the old-fashioned PC monitors thrown at them, only for it to be a massive fail because it's obviously attached to the wall. It just dropped and fell short. Okay, who was that person that had that happen to them? So again, write it down. We'll go through all of these at the end, work from there. So here's a question. Let's sort of finish 2023 off and let's start to look for the future. Okay, if you could sum up 2023, how would you summarize it? Dave, let's
Well,
get to
unpredictable. Unpredictable, depends on your market. Really difficult to work out what was going on in a coherent way.
Yeah. And I think I would describe it as challenging, but quality continued to rise.
Yeah.
So if you were doing the right thing, some of the things that Had and Heather you've been speaking about, even though the market was challenging, if you're doing the right things and displaying the right behaviours, you're still here, and you're still able to have conversations about, well, let's see what 2024 brings.
Mm.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? I've put it down as a year of turmoil,
Yeah.
a year of patience, a year of testing your nerve. And I think those that have really sort of embraced the challenge and understood that, you know, the market does fluctuate, have actually put themselves in a really good position to actually move forward in 2024. I think I've said this on numerous occasions that, you know, if you measure yourself against 22, okay, then you're in for a bit of a hiding, because most people had the biggest year they've ever had in 2022. And therefore measuring yourself in 2023 against that, you're always going to come out with a little bit of a problem. So I think it was those people that realized that they've got to really take it as this year is a year of torment and a year of trial, but you've got to learn to survive. And if you can learn to survive in a market such as this, then it makes the rest of the market so much easier when the market starts to come out. And I think there's a lot of people who've suffered a little bit like that because they've struggled a little to understand that they've got to still do the basics or the core basics of recruitment really well constantly. So when the market does change, they are in a place to accelerate away from the blocks really, really quickly rather than sluggishly. And I think that to me is how I've summarized most of my clients up in 2023, that they put themselves in a really good position to capitalize in 2024.
Yeah, and it's that resilience that I was talking about earlier. You know, it's been a challenging few years, hasn't it? And so those leaders who've really got support around them, thought about the impact of all of this on themselves, and just kept that resilience to keep going and to keep being focused on all of those things that you're talking about, Howard. It's just, yeah, it's a good description.
So talking about resilience then, so who, while visiting a client, boarded a Ryanair flight only to be delayed by a massive, massive storm? They finally got permission to take off. However, typical Ryanair, they'd left the doors open during the storm. So someone from the jump team had to start with the staff, help the staff bail out the water from the seating area before the passengers could actually board. So who was that person that was so helpful to the airline staff to bail the aircraft out? Because I want to know, but at the end of this webinar, whether they heard that, did we arrive on time, or was it just a tugboat noise that was as they landed rather than the usual fanfare? So who was that person? Ryanair, on Ryanair, should I say. So 2024. I keep hearing 2024 is the year of opportunity. People keep talking about 2024 is going to be the year of this, the year of that, this year of opportunity. Why do you think the recruitment market are all talking about 2024 being the year of opportunity?
Joe, partly because to work in recruitment, you've got to be an optimist.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've really got to be the eternal optimist. And we've learned over the last few years, I think, that the only way that we succeed is to go out there and grab what there is, right? To think about it, to strategize, to have a plan, and we have to focus on the opportunity. So good market, bad market, there's always an opportunity for good recruiters who think strategically, to go out there and make something of it. You know, we've all seen people who've succeeded in falling markets. And I think we are such a resilient industry that we focus on what opportunity is there? What can we do? And we try very hard as an industry, I think, all the leaders I come across, not to focus on the bad stuff, but actually think about what can we do? What is the opportunity? It's the way we're made in this business.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Heather, because every year is a year of opportunity. So I don't necessarily see 2024 as any more opportunistic than 2023 or 2022. Look at how most of us, most companies, coped with the COVID situation, and then the post-COVID, and then whatever the new world of work is like. So I think 2024 is the opportunity to build on the building blocks you would have put in 2023. If your company is a little bit more streamlined necessarily, but the foundations are there, then if the opportunity is there, you can take it and grow faster. So you may find yourself going into Q1 thinking, actually, there's more roles, there's more mandates, there's more chance to sell more services than there have been for a little while. So if you've got the processes right, if you've got the leadership right and the culture right, then you'll take advantage of that faster than those leaders and those companies that haven't.
Yeah, and I think recruiters, we are masters of our own destiny. Right?
Absolutely right.
What we do makes a difference to how successfully our businesses operate. You know, whatever market we're in, we have the ability to impact what happens. You know, obviously there's stuff outside of our control, but there's always loads of stuff inside of our control. And it's spotting those things that we need to focus on that will make us successful.
Yeah, and then when you spot them, Heather, it's about executing a plan. And that's the bit that, going back to that first question I had, that those that had a plan of how to cope with the changing world of 2023 will cope better or as well in 2024.
So I think before I answer, I'd like to sort of put out to the audience what their thoughts are of 2024 and why they think it's the year of opportunity. So if anyone wants to answer that question or come on live and answer that question, just either put your hand up or put a note in the web chat, and we will sort of come to you and speak to you about that. I think I agree with both of you there that in recruitment, to me, every year was a year of opportunity. Didn't matter whether the market was up, down, booming, busting. You know, it was always a year of opportunity. It was always a year of opportunity for me to push forward and develop my own sales ability, my own management ability, etc. And I think it was not getting dragged into. I think there's so much negative news about 2023 and what's happening in 2023, you know, sort of Ukraine, you know, Israel, etc., America. Yeah, but there's so much bad news going on. I think that everyone sort of sees it as a refresh, a new start in 2024. The news is still going to be the same, but I think it's, you know, you're saying that, you know, it's the skills that get you through. I think it's more about the mindset and the belief of a recruiter that gets them through, and it's their mindset that you know, it is going to be a good market, it is going to be a good year, and it's about looking for the good things that you can do and the things that you can affect, rather than being dragged into the pit of doom that everyone seems to get themselves pulled into at certain points. Because I think you've got to be very self-aware of it's down to you in recruitment of what you make it. And if you don't believe that, then you generally fail in recruitment. And I had this conversation yesterday with people about your mind thinks certain things, and then what it tries to do is find the evidence to back that thought process up. So if you think you're in recession, guess what? You're going to see recession everywhere, because your mind will build that thought process and build those pillars to say, actually, look at that, that's recession. Look at that, that's recession. So as you drive past the falling down house, you're thinking that house is in recession. But if you think about the positive side, I drive past that house and think, oh, there's an opportunity to rebuild that house. You know, because I'm looking at it from a positive point of view than rather than from a negative point of view. Because then I look for the positives of things that happen. And I've always believed in that and never really had a bad year in recruitment, irrespective of what the year has been like. So I think it is about the mindset. And I think, to me, that opportunity is 2023 has been such a horrific year for all different reasons. It's a wipe the slate clean, focus and move forward.
And dare I say, Had, I don't know whether we're allowed to bring politics into it. We normally don't, but 2024 gives us an opportunity to vote, because there will be an election. And from where I sit, that's a great opportunity.
Well,
whether I'm allowed to profess that, I'm going to do it anyway, because it's Christmas time, and I'm looking forward to voting.
Well, I think whichever party gets in, and I think Neil Carberry said the same thing, didn't he? Whichever party gets in, it gives the business market an opportunity for stability for the next 4-5 years.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that people are looking at. And I think from there, so irrespective who gets in to be apolitical, okay, it gives stability to the community. And that means that we can start to move forward.
Yeah.
So here's the next question then on the quiz. Okay. So who, while traveling to a client meeting, for some reason they were meeting the client at Leicester Services, helped the client change their tyre because they'd blown a tyre. Obviously, chatting away, they solved the tyre issue. They went inside for a coffee and bumped into Paul Gascoigne in Leicester Services, which I'm sure there were some more stories about bumping into Paul Gascoigne. Will come out. But there you go. So who was that? Next question then. So if we moved forward this webinar to December 2024, what would be your predictions? What would we be talking about? What would we be saying about 2024?
I think I would like to think what we're doing is we're saying what Neil and the rest of the Jump team discussed on our webinar with Neil. And if you haven't watched that one, go and watch it because it was a cracker. It's about those recruiters who we will look back and say the recruiters who took the opportunity to have their consultants behave as consultants, to become professional advisors to their clients and were close to the clients, were successful. That they took that opportunity to develop the people in their teams and to have them focused on being confident that they know what they're talking about, that we're specialists and we can genuinely advise our clients on solving their problems, because talent acquisition problems are not going away, right? And they become more and more sophisticated problems to solve. And though I think in 12 months' time we'll be saying those businesses that focused on that were successful and it paid off.
And I would hope that as we look back, we will have seen how important marketing and branding is in the growth of your business. We all know that people and culture and purpose, all the things we've spoken about recently, matter. But I think the rise and the importance of marketing in business development is going to matter even more, particularly if we, as we believe, we're on an upside, and particularly if there is going to be some changes, economic changes as well. So getting your brand out, understanding that at the desk, the people that work for you, that they understand what your values and your purpose are, and they're using the marketing process to communicate that well. And that applies whether you're a 3 or 4 person company or a 50 or 60 person company. Just make sure you've got people spending time on promoting your message and your values and the way that you do things, because that will help you attract good people, both candidates and people for your own business, and retain good clients.
So I think that this year, or 2024, is going to be the start of the change of our relationships between our clients and the recruitment market as a whole. I think we're going to be sat here talking about those clients that got to really align themselves, or those agencies that got to really align themselves with their clients' values and their client mission, and start to really understand what their manning capabilities are, their project capabilities are, so they could assist those clients develop a manning strategy, a recruitment strategy, a retention strategy, etc., are the ones that will excel in 2024. I think there's a big shift away from, communal garden CV chucking recruitment to being more a professional service. And we go
100%.
back to go back to the figures of 2021. We're still waiting for the figures of 2022 on what the market was like. But in 2021, it was 42.9 billion pounds we put into the UK economy, and that's meant to increase to 50 plus by 2025. and what sort of the clients are saying, and this is not recruitment clients, what a lot of the clients of recruiters agencies are saying, that what they're looking for is to create a deeper, stronger relationship with their recruitment agency so they can have a better brand awareness to their target audience in their marketplace. And I think that's what you're talking about there, Dave, is having that brand awareness. And it's not just about branding your business, it's about how you become the brand ambassador for your clients. And therefore, it's important that that relationship between the client and the recruiter gets deeper rather than just a transactional day-to-day. It should be a more long-term relationship. And I think that's what we'll be talking about, or I hope that's what we're talking about, because I think that's really important for the market to mature and become a maturer marketplace. And I think there's an opportunity there that a recruitment agency can start to mature and be seen as a worth and of value, rather than just seen as a necessary evil, as we keep saying that we are that necessary evil. And I think it's how we change that context and change the perception of our business or our community to the rest of the business world. So next question. This is a really interesting one. Okay. And it's interesting because other than me, no one else from Jump has seen what anyone else has written from Jump. So it'll be interesting to see how other people sort of view this one. So who had a legal temp secretary work for them under an alias because she was the famous mistress of John Stonehouse, the disgraced MP who faked his own drowning to avoid prosecution? Now, this was on TV this year, wasn't it? There was a whole TV series about John Stonehouse and about him drowning. And I believe this was what Reginald Perring, The Life and Times of Reginald Perring, was written about, or was written from, was taken from. I believe that was the case. But yeah, so who had a legal secretary work for them under an alias because she was John Stonehouse's mistress? Really interesting question. So who was that from there? So let's sort of get back into our questions and what we're looking at from this year. So we obviously help and develop lots of recruitment agencies. So we've worked with 109 this year that have had more than one session with us. If you were leading a recruitment business now, what would your focus be on in order to achieve your goals in 2024?
Well, I would say this, wouldn't I? But it would be the people in my business. So
HR to the core.
always cut me in half. There it is, right through the middle. It's about, the focus has got to be on your people. So you can have a strategy, but if you don't have the people who understand your strategy and understand their part in it to deliver it, you haven't got it. There's no point in having a strategy. So for me, it is about, have you got the right people in your business in the right role, and have you given them the skills to be the best that they can be in that role, and have a clear understanding of the expectations of that, their contribution, and what's in it for them. Obviously is a lovely little sideline, but have you got the right people in the right roles, and do they have the tools to do the job?
And Heather, I would say exactly the same. It is about the people. We talk about recruitment being a people business because we place people, but for our own businesses, back to 5 or 50 or 500, it's about the people. And I guess I would add to that would be about you as a leader. What are you doing to develop yourself? What are you doing to make sure that you're okay? What are you doing to check in that the way you're running the place is working? So a little bit of self-reflection, I think, is important. Your own learning and development is important, because if that's on point, if that's right, you'll get the people bit right because you'll be doing the right things. So it's all about that personal bit.
So I think you two have actually hit a real big nail with a massive hammer, that it's all about the people. So
see, HR right at the centre of everything.
So I'm going to change the HR tact to a slightly different view. I think we need to start to look at the gap. And what I mean by looking at the gap is that we need to look at our current client base and look at what gap that is going to produce. we know that every single year, irrespective of the marketplace, some clients will prosper, some clients will flatline, some clients will decline. So what did those clients bill last year, and what is the potential gap if you could forecast this year what they're going to bill? So we start to look at that gap. Once we understand that gap, we can then start to think about then what is our new business strategy to fill that gap. So if we want to grow by 15, 20, 30, 40, 50%, what's the gap that you've got to fill with new business to get there? And that helps you to focus on your client development, your development of your lapsed clients, but also how many new clients you need to introduce to your marketplace. So I think having a really good focus on that gap is really important. And if you don't understand your gap and you're just having a nondescript new business strategy and it's not habit, then it will fail. And it's the same with we get a little bit complacent, I think, once we start to work with clients, especially clients that we've worked with a long time. We get a bit of complacence about our services that we offer to them, pricing that we offer to them, etc., etc. I think it's having a completely refresh and have a strategy of every client, irrespective of how much they've billed with in the past, should be treated like a new client. Let's pick up our service levels, let's drive that, and then let's look at the gap and drive into the gap and work from there. And I think once we start to understand that, we'll have a far deeper, far bigger profit, from our client base, but we'll have a far better understanding of our strategy and how we get to execute that strategy throughout the year. So, next question. Let's put it into a Christmas context for the next question. So, whose first placement as a recruitment consultant was a Father Christmas?
Very appropriate.
At a local department store. There you go. That's a very interesting question. Okay, so next question. Jump. Let's look at our clients and the clients that we've been dealing with. Okay. What do you think will be the key for our clients' growth? And we can't say using mentors.
It's using mentors, Howard.
We can't say that. What would be the key to growth?
For me, I mean, it sounds very simple, but making sure that whatever market you're in, you understand the dynamics of that market so that you can have intelligent business conversations with the people that you are servicing by supplying them with people. Because that, although that sounds very obvious, that will distinguish you from many, many recruitment companies which exist to just place staff and can do that very well, but don't really understand about talent management or workforce management. Why do you need them? Where are they doing? What's happening with your business? All the usual business intelligence questions you would hope that everybody would ask. And if you're a leader, you need to give your staff the time to ask those questions. Bombarding them with how many calls have you made today and how many CVs have you sent today, whilst those metrics can be important, actually taking time to understand the tempo and pattern of what's going on in your clients will make your business more successful. Whilst you may not place people as fast initially, you'll certainly develop a longer term relationship and be more successful in the longer term.
Okay. I know we can't say it's the mentors, but it is the mentors. No, it's I think it's the realization that as leaders in organizations, you really do make such a big difference. You really do impact on the success of your business. So thinking about yourself and your role and how much time you spend working on your business, not in your business, will make a massive difference to the success of your organization. So taking the time to think about where you have most impact, stepping away from the things where you don't have impact and leaving them to other people to do, and really focusing on what you can do as a leader to make a difference in your organization. For me, it's the biggest impact. Most of the businesses that Jump works with are reasonably small. The leaders have such a huge impact on what happens in those businesses. So for me, their reflection on their own contribution and their own role as they move their business forward is crucial.
I think I'm going to caveat that with a slide that I use in some of the management training that we deliver about the terror of management and how managers have to create the right type of terror. Being dyslexic, I spell terror T-E-R-A. So T stands for tribe. I think we've got to form a proper tribe in our business where everyone feels in the center of the tribe and no one else is ostracized, not pushed out to an edge. They feel the tribe, and the tribe has a focus in where they're going. The E then is all about, accountability. It's all about what is expected of people. So setting the right expectations for people from a value point of view, from a will point of view, and from a financial point of view regarding performance becomes really important. If they know how they're expected to behave and perform, then it's a lot easier to get to the end of that. The R is about rank, how you make people feel. So do you make people in your business, including your clients, your candidates, and your consultants, feel more important or as important or less important? And I think the A at the end is all about giving the autonomy to your people within your business so they can actually speak freely, because once they're allowed to speak freely, we'll find they will help remove the blockages and the roadblocks within your business, because they'll talk about it, which means the leader has to listen to what's being said to help enable the business to work quicker, faster, and more productive, as a tribe would be when they're all joined together. I think that's the way I would sum it up, that this is what I think that we give to our clients without using the word mentor. This is what we give to our clients. So last two questions, okay? So 8 questions, there's 4 of us. So the next question: who had to rescue one of their board directors when she insulted Carol Vorderman and her guest in Langen's brasserie as a director's Christmas lunch? She was offended by the Irish song that Carol's guest was singing. The guest was evicted by the bouncer in the restaurant after squaring up to the board director, and our colleague had to get between them and narrowly avoided being punched. So who was that person? And the last one, and we'll use the red of Christmas in the last one. Who, while accompanying a trainee on a client visit, had to deal with this? This manager was training a lady who had tied up her hair with a red lacy band. Halfway through the meeting, she decided to remove the band, only for it to be a red lacy thong. The client and this person got a full view of the thong, but the trainee just carried on selling. So the questions are, in the chat, if you're playing on the chat, if you're playing along the side, it'd be interesting to hear from Heather and Dave what their thought processes are. So, who ran the half marathon? So put in the chat who you thought was the person who ran the Reading half marathon and massively smashed it out of the ground, apparently. So, is anyone writing in the chat? No one's writing in the chat. No one's putting anything in the chat. So everyone's a little bit confused on who would run the half marathon. Dave, who ran the half marathon?
I was wondering whether it was you, Howard.
It wasn't me. Nicola, it wasn't Dave. Charlotte, it wasn't Dave. Heather, who was it who ran the half marathon? It was Heather who ran the half marathon.
It was a very long time ago, and I didn't run it very fast, but I did run it and I did finish it.
Makes no difference. You ran the half marathon. So it was Heather. So Heather was the person who ran the half marathon. Okay. So second question: who, whilst terminating a temp or contractor, had a PC screen thrown at them? So again, stick that into your chat. Heather, who do you think that was?
I think it was Paul. I agree with Nicola.
Yeah, I agree with Nicola. I think it's Paul. I think we've all wanted to do that with Paul.
So I've got to say, we're not doing very well at this, because it was me with a client in Leicester whose contractor had been lying to me, who said he was a professional football ref and was refereeing it it was just before the Premiership. We found out that he wasn't, so I went down to terminate him, and he got very angry, picked up
Oh,
a piece of string, threw it, just it went about 2 yards, and then dropped to the floor. I then waltzed him off site.
Nicola's asked, is she in trouble? I was going to say, Nicola, you're in the same amount of trouble as we're all in now.
We all thought it was Paul.
So, who got on a Ryanair flight, only having to bail out the water from the flight before it could take off? Who was that?
I think that was Dave. Dave has had a lot of incidents on Ryanair flights. I think his card is marked. So I'm
Nicholas got
going
with Dave.
Yes, it was me. And it was one of those. Our flight, Heather, was at 8:20 and it was 11:55 and it had like this 5-minute window to take off. And the storm was horrendous and it was still raining while we were trying to get the water out. But it was like, please get me on this flight from Lisbon back home.
So, Dave, when you landed, did it come out with the usual "we have landed on time" toot from Ryanair, or did you have the Popeye boat horn because you were floating?
No, we'd flown through a storm, so everybody was kind of fearful for their lives. Never has 1999 been so poorly spent.
So, who, after changing a tyre and meeting their client at Leicester Services, bumped into Gaza?
I think that's Howard.
Oh, there we go. Any advances on Howard, Dave?
Oh, Nicola thinks it's Howard too.
Oh, Nicola thinks it's Howard. Okay. Dave, relay your story.
It was actually me.
We're not doing very well, are we?
We've got the quarter right so far.
We bumped into a client who was changing a tyre. I'd helped him change the tyre. We both had grubby hands and dirty clothing because we changed the tyre. Both went in, and walking towards us was Gaza. And it was one of those moments of, obviously he's a hero from a sporting point of view, that we wanted to talk and chat and shake his hand, and we were full of oil and petrol and diesel and all the stuff that you get on the road. So that was at Leicester Forest East Services, but we got to say hello from afar.
The only famous person I've ever met in a service station was Jimmy Osmond.
Oh, well, there you go.
He was Jimmy and Jay Osmond, and they were on their way to Grimsby or somewhere.
I was going to say it wasn't in Liverpool then.
I wasn't going to say it wasn't late. I was going to say exactly the same, Dave. Not on the way to Liverpool.
No. Well, I was on my way to meet a client in Grimsby, and they were going somewhere on the coast to do a concert on the coast.
Oh, wow.
Next question then. Who did have John Stonehouse's secretary work for them?
That's definitely Paul.
Yeah, I would think that's Paul because he's often talked about office angels, so he must have had a fair few unusual.
And he's old enough.
Yeah.
it was definitely Paul.
Yeah.
And to top it off, he actually said as well that they allowed her time off to go visit him in prison as well.
Really? Brilliant.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Those were the days, eh?
Those were the days. So, whose first placement was a Santa Claus in their local department store? Oh, Nicola's gone straight in for Heather. Heather's HR. Come on, think about it. Heather's HR.
Well, I was going to say Paul again. Would it be another Paul one?
I admit it. It was me.
Yes, but
it was the famous.
I like that. Nicola.
I admit it.
Yes, but she is good.
Yeah, unlike most of my colleagues. It was Pearson's, the famous old department store in Enfield town centre. And I placed their Father Christmas. I was so excited at my very first placement. I was so young.
Brilliant. So, who ended up in Langhams and had a fracas with Carol Vorderman and her friend for them to be ejected whilst that person was sat in the middle of them trying to part the waves?
Yeah.
Who was that?
I'm with Nicola. I think it's you, Howard.
No, I think that's Howard as well. That's definitely a Howard.
So let me tell the story. But the story could only be told if Paul was here, because it was Paul.
Oh no!
Oh.
Apparently, Paul was stood in between them, and his director at the time was quite a robust lady, and Carol Vorderman's not sure either. So little Paul's in the middle trying to push them to one side, he said, as they're all throwing lobs over the top, and a bouncer trying to escort somebody out from their midst.
She is my hero, Carol Vorderman. She's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
A lad I played rugby with was her first husband.
Oh, really?
That's really?
Yeah. So, yeah, she's not as nice as she comes across. That's the only thing I'll say.
Have a bad word said about the woman. She's amazing.
That's because she got hit in a restaurant when she was younger.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah, by Paul. By Paul. So, last question then. Who, whilst training a consultant, had to sit and watch them pull from their hair what was supposed to be a red lacy hairband, which turned out to be a pair of red lacy thongs?
Frankly, this could be any of us.
Yeah.
But I'll go with Howard. I'm Nicola, I'm with you on this one. This is Howard.
I'll go with Howard as well, I think.
I've got to admit, it was me. I've got to admit, it's the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. Fair play to the girl. She was sat there and she was sort of going through the sales with this guy, and he was really getting on with it. And I suddenly saw her sort of froze for about 30 seconds, and I thought, what's she frozen about? And then she started to say something, and then she started to ruffle with her hair, and I thought, what's going on here? And then she started to pull it and pull it. And as she pulled it, it unraveled. So it was just the perfect drop of a red thong. And I just sat there going, oh my God, this guy looked at me and I looked at him and we're just going, I can't believe we're seeing this. And she deadpanned, said nothing, just carried on and had the
only way to deal with a situation like that is to just power through it. So fair play to us.
Yeah.
Fair play.
She was quite a funny consultant, because not only did she do that, we went to another meeting and she got 2 different shoes on. So I can understand if you got 2 different court shoes, and one might be slightly blue and one might be slightly black. But no, one was a short heel, one was a long heel. She was hobbling up and down. And she said, I just got dressed really quick this morning, didn't realise. Absolutely classic. She was a very good consultant, but absolutely mad as a bucket of frogs.
Yeah, I have been to a meeting with odd shoes on before, Howard, so I can roll
but
with
not
it.
Different size heels, surely.
No, same shoe, one in brown, one in blue, and I'd got dressed in the dark and ended up with
No, that was me with the different heels, Howard.
So, ladies and gents, thank you for today. Paul, Heather, thank you for your input. Dave and Heather, thank you for your input. Paul, thank you for your crazy stories, as always. There's always something in Paul's locker that he comes out with. That just leaves us to say, for everybody, this is the last webinar for this year, so we look forward to seeing you in 2024. We wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas, and here's to a massively prosperous 2024. Thanks for your help. Thanks for your time. See you all next year.
Have a good Christmas, everybody. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.